On June 2, 2011, emergency units comprising police cars and ambulances rushed to the Christian West junkyard in Strasburg, Pennsylvania, after receiving a call from an employee reporting the discovery of his colleague's body. The deceased, named Kristen Wagner, was found in a refrigerated trailer. The man informed the police that he believed Kristen had taken her own life as he found her body hanging from the ceiling of the refrigerated trailer, with a rope around her neck, indicating a possible suicide by hanging. He mentioned that he first called the junkyard's owner, James Bidwell, a well-known figure in the Strasburg community, who was in Philadelphia, 2 hours away from the junkyard, and advised him to call the emergency services. When the investigators arrived at the scene, they confirmed this initial assessment after a preliminary examination of the scene and the victim's body, which showed some purple bruises around the neck. The investigators interpreted these bruises as the victim's attempt to apply pressure to her neck to end her life. However, the victim's body was sent to the forensic lab for an autopsy to determine the true cause of death. Were the investigators correct in assuming Kristen ended her own life? Or was there a criminal element behind this tragic incident? The investigators questioned several people close to Kristen to analyze her mental state and determine if she had suicidal tendencies. Among those interviewed was the victim's sister, Kimberly Anker, who explained that her sister had suffered from psychological issues in her youth due to family problems. Despite this, Kristen was always kind and loving. During high school, Kristen met the love of her life, who later became her husband. Pregnant with her first child as a teenager, Kristen could not complete her education and chose to marry the man she loved, with whom she had 3 children. Kristen was a loving mother and wife, but she deviated from the right path by engaging in drug use, which quickly led to addiction, gradually destroying her life. Kristen had previously attempted to end her life by overdosing on drugs, but fortunately, her family discovered her in time and rushed her to the hospital, where her life was saved at the last moment. Kimberly told the investigators that her sister had learned from that incident and decided to change her life drastically. She became more involved with the church, strengthened her relationship with God, and became interested in Christian teachings, especially after her father introduced her to the charismatic businessman James Bidwell, who played a significant role in her improvement. All indications pointed to Kristen having taken her own life, with no one else responsible for her sudden and gruesome death, especially after the forensic lab report, released 4 days after the body was found, stated that Kristen died due to severe pressure on her neck, supporting the theory of suicide by hanging. Therefore, the investigators concluded their inquiry and closed the case. None of the police officers or the victim's family suspected any foul play in Kristen's death. However, this perception changed dramatically when the Narcotics Division announced shocking news to the local community. On June 9th of the same year, Pennsylvania law enforcement announced the arrest of businessman and social activist James Bidwell on charges of drug possession and trafficking. James Bidwell was a successful businessman with a good reputation in his community, known for helping others, providing job opportunities, and engaging in charitable activities. He was also a devoted and loving husband and father. The statement issued by the Narcotics Division revealed that James was involved in transporting drugs from Philadelphia to Strasburg, where he distributed and sold them. The authorities relied on a confidential informant working at James' scrapyard. This news alarmed the homicide detectives working on Kristen's case. They immediately contacted their colleagues in the Narcotics Division for information about the confidential informant mentioned in the statement. It was no surprise to them when they learned that the informant was Kristen. The investigators discovered that Kristen's relationship with James went beyond him being her boss. Their relationship had developed significantly. She was quickly charmed by James and fell in love with him, becoming his sexual partner. Meanwhile, the Narcotics Division was investigating James' illegal activities. When they learned about his relationship with Kristen, they approached her and asked her to work with them to incriminate James Bidwell. Due to her personal history of struggling with drugs, Kristen agreed to the authorities' offer despite her apprehensions about the potential consequences. This deal was made shortly before Kristen's body was found in James' scrapyard, suggesting that the investigators had prematurely closed the case and that foul play might be involved. Despite their growing suspicions, the investigators lacked sufficient evidence to reopen the case. On May 9, 2013, James was convicted of several drug-related charges. His lawyer filed an appeal and managed to secure conditional bail for him at $100,000. However, despite these developments, the drug cases did not reveal any connection between James and Christine's death. Things remained unchanged until May 27, 2014, when a man named Richard Gere contacted law enforcement, explaining that James had confessed to him that he ended Christine's life after she threatened to expose their relationship to his wife. Richard informed the investigators that he was a close friend of James and had been a partner in some projects with him in the past, but stopped working with him when he learned about James' involvement in illegal activities. James had told Christine that his relationship with his wife had deteriorated after she found out about his drug use. He always tried to convince Christine that she was the only woman in his life and that his marriage to Jennifer Bidwell was merely a facade. According to Richard, Christine did not believe James despite all his efforts to persuade her that she was his only love. Christine grew tired of the secret relationship that lasted over a year, during which James always promised her that he was waiting for the right time to divorce his wife and make their relationship public, but that never happened. James had told his close friend Richard that Christine had called him and threatened to reveal their relationship to Jennifer. Initially, James thought Christine was merely trying to intimidate him as usual and that he could control her when they met. However, things did not go as he expected. When James met Christine, she began arguing and fighting with him again. This time, the argument escalated and Christine, raising her voice, felt compelled to take out her phone and call James' wife to expose their affair. At this point, James lost control and lunged at her, choking her until she took her last breath. Realizing the gravity of what he had done, he staged the scene to make it appear as if Christine had committed suicide and called an employee to report what had happened. Law enforcement authorities arrested James shortly after this shocking confession. On August 11, 2014, he was convicted of first-degree murder in the case of Kristen Wagner and was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Christine paid a heavy price for her love and trust in James, who only cared about himself and his interests. Despite everything Christine went through and did, her family finally found peace as justice prevailed and the details of that horrific crime were uncovered.